Welcome into On Texas Football. It's time for State of the Program, brought to you by our friend Adam Lowy over at the Lowy Law Firm. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Gerry Hamilton and Rod Babers. We're going to talk about the Texas Longhorns and their week thus far, as well as what's ahead. But really what we want to focus on in this video, guys, is where we think the strengths of this Texas team are, and then also where we think the Longhorns need to get not just a little bit, but a lot better if they want to be a playoff caliber team. So really good. What are the strengths of this team, like extraordinary strengths, and then where do they need to get a lot better? Gerry Hamilton, let's start off with where you think they're really, really strong right now. And we've seen the first two games. Has it been the defense overall? Is it a certain aspect of the defense? Where are you at on this?
Yeah, I actually, it kind of goes back to one of the things we hit on a lot in the offseason. I think it's linebacker play. I think Texas is really good at linebacker because they're so versatile. Because I don't even think we've seen much at all with what Texas is going to do with Anthony Hill come the Florida game, the Oklahoma game, and the rest of the SEC schedule. But the emergence of Ty Anthony Smith, and Sark gave everybody the hint. He called him a budding star, which if we know Sark, when he starts saying things like that, somebody's going to be a dude, right? And Ty Anthony Smith is a dude. Now he's got to get better at tackling as he gets stronger, but he's such a good space player. LaFau is such a good player against the run and between the tackles. Trey Moore brings that versatility. You could see Bo Barnes with a smaller role as the season moves along because he's been really good. But those first four linebackers for Texas, they have so much versatility, Rod, and I think it's actually going to become a strength of this defense as the season plays out.
Rod, do you agree with that? You agree with the linebacker being, one of the very big strengths of the team?
Yeah, I'll add to it. I agree with Gerry. I think it's actually something that's been very surprising. It's really kind of the central nervous system of the defense that's really good. You're deep at, of course, linebacker and versatile. Not just deep, but versatile. Got a lot of versatile pieces there, but also pleasantly surprised by the depth at the D tackle position. Hero Canoes looked really good early on. Ron Watson just had a hell of a game versus San Jose State. And I like Alex January, obviously didn't play, but I like what he brings to the table too. So I like the depth there. And then safety is also in your deepest position. You got three starting safeties essentially with Taft and Jelani McDonald, and the way those guys are playing. So and Derek Williams, obviously. So I think your central nervous system, right at the core. All right, that's important because those are the guys who are your air traffic controllers. So usually, obviously not the D tackles, but your off-ball linebackers, your safeties. Those are the guys that are getting guys moved around. They're the guys making the checks and the audibles, communicating to the rest of the defense. Those are your high football IQ positions a lot of the time too. Texas is really strong there. So we talked about the edges and how great they're going to be, but I've been pleasantly surprised by really the linebacker position, but also the D tackle position as well, and the safety. So I just like that. Like I said, that central nervous system, the spine of the defense is really strong.
Right up the gut.
Yeah,
that's something. It's very funny. I made a tweet, by the way, earlier this week. Anthony Hill had caused 2 fumbles, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, look, these 4 linebackers, Texas has something special brewing. Mac Brown liked the tweet just to give you an idea, because I think the former head coach agrees with that assessment. I'm going to give you all another piece that I think is really good and probably better than expected at this point, and that's tight end.
Yeah,
boy, Jack Indries looks like he's the real deal.
Yeah,
especially as a receiver. The first game against Ohio State, he made 3 difficult catches that were 50-50 balls, maybe at some level. Now, at different depths, et cetera, right? And then he comes back with 2 catches on Saturday against San Jose State, both for touchdowns. And then you look at what's the depth that's developing at tight end with Nick Townsend, with Jordan Washington. I mean, Jordan Washington had 25-plus snaps on Saturday. Nick Townsend at 19, and they're finding him a role. I think that tight end went in with a lot of question marks. But it's actually becoming a quiet strength because I just think there's a lot of value there in injuries. And then the younger guys, along with Spencer Shannon, give Texas depth at tight end that not many teams really have. And I feel that that's good. I also want to add this. Running back, if Trey Weiser's healthy. Isn't running back better than we thought it would be, theoretically, if Trey Weiser's there and CJ Baxter is healthy.
Yeah, because Baxter's ahead of where I think even the Texas staff thought he would be 3, 4, 5 months ago.
Is there an offensive position that you're thinking like I am, where hey, wide receiver, not wide receiver, tight end and running back might be a little ahead, Gerry?
I'm big on tight end because look, I think we're going to see a lot of 12 personnel. Rod can get into that this as the season moves along. But I really believe if you can get to a point where, and I think Jordan Washington is going to be a good player, and I think Emery Winston's going to catch everything thrown at him. But if you can get to a point where Jack Indries and Nick Townsend are playing together more, then you're going to be able to put a different stress on the defense than kind of what we were thinking going into the season, because this is the most athletic group of tight ends I've ever seen Texas have. Now, and some of the people say, well, hold on, but Jermichael Finley was redshirting when David Thomas played, so there wasn't really a true crossover with those guys. Nick Townsend's a freak athlete at 245 pounds. Now, I mean, he is a guy that's going to run in the high 4.4s or 4.5s. The track times backed it up his senior year.
That's crazy.
And he's physical. And then Indries is a really good route runner. It's catching everything. So Sark has a chance to put a lot of pressure on teams from the tight end position in the passing game, Rod. And Sark always talks about it, how important that position is. I think he's going to make it more important than ever on this team.
Yeah, I agree. I love you talking about Nick Townsend. I mean, to be that physical as a freshman, it's just insane. Right? He's arguably your most physical tight end. Guy's a freshman, so he's carved out a role for himself. But I agree. Sark is always on the record for talking about it's the second most important position in his offense behind quarterback. And guys, I'm ready. I'm kind of ready to go on the record. I'm going to go back and research this today. But just from the top, just obviously off the cuff here, I can't remember a game where Texas had that many tight ends contribute.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
A good one.
Well, I mean, that many tight ends getting reception. Jordan Washington got a catch. Winston got a catch. Indries got 2 touchdowns. And Nick Townsend was heavily involved in the game. Like Spencer Shannon was kind of the only guy I think that didn't get a target at tight end.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. Dude, guys, there's no way there's been a game since Sark has been here where you've had 4 tight ends get targets. I just can't think of it. Not off the top of my head. And I'm going to go back and do the research and make sure. But to Jerry's point, you're deeper there and more athletic there than ever before. Sark prioritizes. He wants to get more physical. He's talked about that. That's a big part of this push to be under center more. Big part of playing more 12 personnel. Usually they're about 35% on average 12 personnel. And that game was arguably one of your best games you've ever had, showcasing 12 personnel. You average 12 yards per play. Out of 12 personnel in that game. You averaged damn near 20 yards per attempt in that game. You had your 5 most explosive plays in the game all came out of 12 personnel.
Yeah.
I mean, that may be the greatest 12 personnel game in the history of Sark football here in Texas.
I love it, Rob. I love it. Hey, we'll talk more about those good things. I also want to mention where Texas needs to get a lot better. So you guys stew on that while I tell folks about our sponsor for State of the Program. That's Adam Lowy over at the Lowy Law Firm. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind and think you might be due compensation, reach out to Adam and his firm for a free consultation, no strings attached. Again, that is loweylawfirm.com. Absolutely no strings attached consultation if you think you might be due compensation because of a car wreck or truck wreck of any kind. Thanks again to Adam and his team for their sponsorship of On Texas Football. Adam, a UT Law grad, has been helping injured Texans for 20 plus years. All right, guys, we talked about what's going really good or what's promising, whether it's the linebackers, the interior, up the spine, safeties that Rod's talking about. Gerry, you mentioned the linebackers overall, tight end, definitely moving forward. Running back probably better than expected if we had to look back on it right now from where we expected 2 months ago, say. Where does Texas need to get a lot better as the season progresses? Not just like Arch Manning needs to keep doing continual improvement. Okay. I think we saw the start of what we're going to see from him over time, but who needs to get a lot better? Is there a portion of this team that needs to get a lot better? Rod, I want to start with you this time.
Yeah, for me, man, they're so sloppy that it affects so many different areas of the offense because they're a little bit of a sloppy team. Period. I think third down is where I need to see the most improvement. I mean, I think you're
Not
100%.
necessarily a position, but a scheme or a strategy.
Yes, an area, a problematic area. I mean, you can argue they were worse in third down versus San Jose State than they were versus Ohio State.
Yes.
They were saved by the explosive plays. They have to get better in third down. And a lot of that is sloppy play because the penalties affect third down. Well, man, out there on first or second down, that puts you more behind the chains, puts you in third and long. They were averaging 3rd and 9? Was their average
9.7? Yeah, 9.7.
That's insane, guys. That you cannot live like that. There's no way that you, as an offense, can hope to execute at that high level on every third down. So, as the great Bill Walsh used to say, the best third down call is the one you don't have to make. So they need to start getting more explosive plays and chunk yard plays on first and second down. But because they're so sloppy, the penalties, a lot of times kind of whether it's missed assignments, drops a part of that too. They got to get better executing on third down. To me, that's just them being more focused, less distractions, and everybody being a little bit more buttoned up. So third down for me is it. I mean, I could, harp on some other areas, but I think third down is probably the most critical.
They got to get a lot. What is a good? I mean, what are they? 2 or 12 against San Jose State? Is that something?
Yes.
So what is a good barometer for people to look for, Rod, in that category? If you're not, I'm not talking about necessarily national championship caliber, but playoff caliber. What does that look like in your mind?
Right now, they're at 26%, somewhere around there, like a little under 27%. They should be, man, with all this talent, I would hope they'd be like in a 40, close to 40% range. Yeah. Especially with a quarterback that can run and move. When Trey Wisner gets back into the fold, you should stay ahead of the chains. He helps, guys, by the way. Yeah. The reason you were better in the Ohio State game than this game is because Trey Wisner, he helped you get ahead. A lot of those some good first down runs. That would get you ahead of the chains early on. So that'll help. They have way too much talent, guys, for them to be this inept on third down. So that's what I would like. Because Sark has never been an elite third. They've never been an elite third down offense since he's been here. They have never been elite third down offense. They're not as bad as they are in the red zone, but they've never been elite. They also have never been this bad. So there's regression happening there. And I think ultimately it's just because as a team overall, they're a little sloppy and critical areas like third down and red zone. That sloppiness will be your own worst enemy in those situations. And
you don't have, to your point, a guy like Trey Wisner to make it 2nd and 6 instead of 2nd and 8.
Yep.
Yeah. Right, Gerry. What do you think? What's an area where Texas needs to improve, quote unquote, a lot?
I got two that really stand out to me. One is wide receiver blocking on the perimeter, because
you've been harping on that the last couple of days.
Yeah, Sark wants to have a horizontal passing game. He wants to have a screen game, and right now he doesn't. Because they can't block it up. I mean, and Rod said on the live stream, and look, Parker Livingstone said he's having a great season, but the first play of the game, that Rod said that's a probably play they practiced 15 times. It was the first play of the game, and then you hold on the first play of the game and wipe out a 28-yard run. Those are things that just can't happen. And then, Bobby, you've kind of mentioned it, and I think this is where Texas really misses Emmett Mosley, is Ryan Niblett's being asked to be a blocker on the perimeter. He's 5'10", 180.
Yeah.
With not long arms. He's being asked to do something I'm not sure he can be successful at because he's not Jordan Whittington. I think Emmett Mosley is Jordan Whittington-ish as a blocker with that size and strength. So I really think they're missing Emmett Mosley in an area that people aren't talking about. But they're going to have to block it better. And that's in the run game, too, to help maximize the run game. They're going to have to become much better at the receiver position, blocking on the perimeter. Then the other one for me, they're going to have to find some explosivity in special teams in the return game. And I don't know if that's when Jonah Williams finally hits the field, but Texas scared opponents. Now, they scared the fans. Xavier and Silas would scare the fan base, would scare me during the watch with us. I think really big, but they also scared the opponent. And right now, you're not scaring the opponent in the return game. And I do think if you're going to maximize a team, then you have to that's part of this game and maximizing a team. You have to have some way to scare that opponent in the return game. And right now, I'm just not seeing it.
Interesting. I'm I hear you guys, both you guys. My piece is a little different. I think the offensive line has to improve a lot.
Hmm.
I mean, what I saw against Ohio State, I think, was predictable in some ways. They only rushed 4. You were able to get some yardage on first downs. You pass protected better than expected, maybe, even though they only sent 4.
Mm-hmm.
But San Jose State caused a different problem, and one that is, I think, more fundamental. If they're smaller than you, you should be able to move them. I mean, even if they put 6 or 7 in the box, there should be some holes there for running backs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure there were really. And so is that a lack of cohesiveness among the offensive line, a lack of understanding of what they're supposed to do in certain situations, a lack of ability to do so? I don't know. But I know that Texas isn't going to a college football playoff with the O-line performance we saw against San Jose State.
Yeah.
And so if any of them have to improve, in my opinion, it's that performance, because I do think that the holding against a DJ Campbell or a Trevor Gooseby, a procedure against Brandon Baker, those are contributing to Rod's third down situation,
for sure.
right? But so were the stuffed runs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because, one thing or the other. And it's not all, I want to say the run game's not all on the offensive line. It's the tight ends, it's the running backs, et cetera, all getting in there. But I would just say this. I feel like the offensive line is so core. You win with your offensive line and defensive line. And I think that the offensive line has to take that a big jump because they're going to see better fronts in the SEC. They're going to see more varied fronts. And I think that's the group that has to show the most improvement. And I want to say this, it's not an individual that I'm pointing out here that needs to show. It's the group as a whole that needs to show it. What were you going to say, Gerry?
Yeah, we talked about this heading into the season. Sark, with the changes within his scheme, he's putting more pressure on the offensive line.
Yes.
You want to play under center? Because, look, Texas led the nation in passes under 5 yards last year. That's not going to be the case this year.
Mm-hmm.
So you're putting more pressure on your offensive line. And when you want to go back to – and I'm not saying Sark is wrong for this. I'm just stating the facts. This is what's happening. So there is more pressure on the offensive line. They're going to have to pass protect a little longer because Arch is going to want to throw it down the field. And that puts more stress on an offensive line. This puts more stress on tight ends in pass pro. What they're asked to do. So he is putting, because of Arch's strengths and what Sark, I think, ideally wants to do as a play caller and offensive coach, if he has his pieces that he wants, the quarterback he desires, that puts more pressure. And you used to see Steve Spurrier do this. He put more pressure on his offensive line because there were so many longer developing routes and what he did with his quarterback. That's what you're going to see with Texas this year with Arch. And that is going to place a lot more premium on the offensive line and pass protection. And Rod, what that's going to create is a lot of team doing a lot more, running a lot more games against Texas, I think.
Yeah. And with UTEP coming to town, they'll test that a little bit. UTEP's an aggressive defense. That'll be fun to watch.
Yeah.
I got to see, we got to see improvement overall. I want to be clear about that. Like Arch Manning needs to improve. The receivers all these things need to happen for Texas to maximize their outcome for this season. Nobody disagrees with that. But I think that the offensive line has to gel. I would say this, this is a team that is off to a good start in so many ways too.
Yes.
Like I feel like we talked about that linebacker, the defensive tackle, safety position. The edges are eventually going to get home.
Mm-hmm.
They may not be right now, but that is too much talent in that room not to do it. Maybe if they're part of the sloppy play as well. And there's some elements in special teams that are out there that could potentially improve the group as a whole. So all in all, interesting discussion. Thank you all for having that today. I enjoyed that. For Rod Babers as well as Gerry Hamilton, thank you again to our sponsor, Adam Lowy over at the Lowy Law Firm. Again, if you've been injured in a car wreck or truck wreck of any kind, and think you might be due compensation, reach out to Adam and his group, 20 plus years experience over at loeylawfirm.com. All right, that's going to do it for State of the Program. Rod, Gerry, we'll see you a little bit later today. We got more stuff coming. Gerry, you got some Derek Cooper stuff coming, a little football recruiting talk as well. So for Rod and Gerry, I'm Bobby. You guys have a good day. Welcome.
Hook 'em.